Sound roll number 6, camera roll number 11. What's that I hear? Interview Tom Paxton.
More instrumentation?
No, it's possible.
Sounds rolling.
Yeah, go ahead.
And roll 11, take 7.
Okay. Talking about topical songs, what was Broadside?
Broadside magazine was started very early in the 60s by Gordon Friesen and Sis Cunningham, who both had radical musical backgrounds. I think Sis had been in the Almanac Singers, I do believe. And they started this topical song work. It was, Mimeograph, a magazine from their apartment. And right from the beginning, they were publishing some of the best topical songs that were being written. A lot of Bob's early songs were published in there, Phil and I, and a lot of different people. Pat Sky had songs in there. And it got to the point where we started having broadside hoots on Sunday afternoons at the Village Gate, which was a big commercial club, a big capacity club where, Mary McCabe, people like that would play. Well, we'd have Art DeLugoff would let us have the place on a Sunday afternoon, and we'd have broadside hoots and sing the latest songs we'd written. And I remember one time, usually these things were done where we'd all sit on the stage together and just get up and take your licks, And Len Chandler and I were sitting next to one another, and this little girl, little girl, got up and sang. I forget the song, but it just knocked our hats in the creek, as they say, and it was Janis Ian. So things like that would happen. You'd hear someone for the very first time who was shortly to be heard by a lot of people.
Describe the Broadside meetings at Sis and Gordon's apartment. Did you go to those things?
Yeah, sure. Broadside meetings, as you can well imagine, broadside meetings of a bunch of songwriters and Gordon and Sis about what should be done with the magazine were models of harmony. Never a discouraging word was heard. The fur would fly. We're printing too many songs that don't have anything to say. That song was an embarrassment. That guy can't write a song. Why are we publishing? It was terrible. It was wonderful. I had almost forgotten those meetings at Broadside, but they were really something to get your blood rushing.
Were there crowds of people who'd show up and would go around the room and sing their songs actually into the tape recorder so that it could later be transcribed? Did that occur?
Oh yeah, sure. A lot of songs were done that way. Very few of us could write music. I think I was one of the few who could write, and it was kind of laborious for me, but I could do my own lead sheets. But most of the time, they were taken down on tape and then transcribed.
Did you feel that you were influencing people with your songs? Did you think you were having an impact?
Did I think I was having an impact? No.
Really?
No. I was trying to earn a living. I was trying to write songs in the folk tradition. I was trying to get girls. And it didn't occur to me. The first time it began to dawn on me that somebody outside just my immediate circle knew my songs was someone told me they'd heard people singing "I Can't Help But Wonder Where I'm Bound" at some coffee house in the Cape, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. And then Ramblin' Boys started, being picked up around the circuit, but I wasn't aware of it. Until much later that people, actual human beings were out there listening to my music.
Well, certainly later, and you alluded to later, certainly by the end of the 60s, you were somebody who played at rallies and you knew that you were being invited to political events for the purpose of singing your songs. At that point, did you understand that you were influencing people, affecting people in a certain conscious way?
No, I didn't feel I was influencing people. I would be at the rallies, God knows. I was in Washington, Lord knows how many times. But I honestly felt, and I still feel that, I was part of something that was going on that needed to be said, but that the event itself was what was influencing people. The speakers were influencing people. I mean, Martin Luther King, do you mind? He was the one who was influencing people at the rally at the UN where I appeared, and that was the same rally where was it Stokely who first came up with the "Hell No, We Won't Go"? Rap Brown, I forget who it was, but that's the first time that chant was introduced. That's what was influencing people, not my songs. I was part of the fabric, and I was with the band, and I was glad to be.
Did you do in your village days a lot of benefits, a lot of rallies? Certainly benefits, I think, were.
Did I do a lot of benefits? We all did. I mean, we did as many benefits as we did shows we got paid for. Did benefits all the time. In other cities too. I mean, I don't whether you got expenses or not. You know, you'd go and you do these things because it was exciting. You know, there was something behind it. There was something we were doing it for. We were supporting the miners in Hazard. We had met them. We'd been down there. These were real people to us, and they were up against it. They were really being screwed big time. So we did rallies for them, and we raised money for them. And it was another excuse to get up and sing. It was fun. It was important to us. We cared. We were young, and there would be girls there.
Around about 63, 64, there's what's, I don't know if it was known then, but now it's called the Great Folk Scare, the Great Folk Boom. At one point, as you well know, folk music became the popular commercial thing. Was there a point in time, now you got there, it was going on to some degree with the Kingston Trio, but I think it really peaked by maybe the year you first recorded, 64. Was there a point where you felt that, hey, I'm on the crest of a wave here, something is happening with what I'm doing and my friends?
Yes and no. When at that time in 1963, when Peter, Paul and Mary had 3 albums in the top 10 at the same time, I was still working in coffee houses. I had been rooming with Paul when they were putting the trio together. I had even actually, shortly after I got out of the Army, I auditioned for and got a part in the Chad Mitchell Trio on a provisional basis, and they let me go after a week because my voice didn't blend properly, and I was very distraught about that. But that was my shot at the folk boom. But I kind of feel that the folk boom kind of boomed without me. I would have enjoyed some of the success that a lot of my friends were having, but it really had nothing to do with me.
You were in a very different vein, and Van Ronk and Oakes and Dillon were in a very different vein than a lot of the groups that the folk boom brought to the scene. We referred earlier to the striped shirts and the candy apple, banjos and things. What did you guys think of, these, the white boy Delta singers coming through the scene?
White boy Delta singers were fine with me because they were guys who were doing their homework. They were going to roots music. They loved it and they were learning it. I think we had a lot of justified scorn for 3 guys on a slow day at the frat house saying, "What'll we do? Let's start a group," and they knew 3 chords, and they would start a group again, and they looked nice, and a record company would snap them up and spit them out a year later. These were guys who didn't have any deep love for what they were doing, and it showed. I mean, if the commitment was there, as it was, you see, with Peter, Paul, and Mary, they were, a lot of people didn't like them and everything, but these were 3 people with real commitment. And the difference, I mean, they shone for that. They really shone for that. The other groups who were in it for the money, made the money, didn't make the money, left, did something else. Peter, Paul, and Mary are still going because they always believed in what they were doing.
You read my mind. PPM criticized. I think that was valid. Peter, Paul, and Mary was criticized for being too polished, for taking the songs too far away from the roots. You knew these guys, I assume, to varying degrees or very well. Did this criticism hurt them or make them defensive?
Peter, Paul, and Mary criticized for taking the music too far from its roots. I wonder. I mean, did Bartok get criticized for taking folk songs too far from them? Tchaikovsky probably got really slammed for ruining folk songs. I don't get it. I mean, make the best music you can make, and if you make good music, what's wrong with that? I mean, are Peter, Paul, and Mary good to listen to? Yeah, they are. They're good to listen to. They've got good voices. They play very good arrangements. They choose good songs. What do you want? They're not a Delta singer. It's a different thing. I mean, they are professional entertainers. Let them be as good as they can be. That's what I say.
Did the criticism get to them?
We got just the same, the resident is back here.
Oh,
Yeah.
The which?
somebody who lives in the house is just going.
Okay, well, I think we can change our real quick.
Okay.
We're right there.
Okay.
We're still on camera roll, sound roll number 6. Camera roll number 11 is done. We're on camera roll number 12. What's that I hear? Paxton interview. Take 8 up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
Camera roll 12.
And take 8.
Last question was, did the criticism, and I think there was criticism of PP&M, did it get to them at all? Did it make them feel defensive, or were they, as you say, laughing all the way to the bank?
No one laughs all the way to the bank. Barry Manilow doesn't laugh all the way to the bank. Criticism always hurts. If you want to hurt someone, criticize them, severely. Criticize their work savagely. Sure, it hurt, especially since they knew what they were trying to do. Of course they wanted to succeed. Who doesn't? But you never saw anybody work harder than they worked. Matter of fact, Peter and Paul, when they were putting the trio together and when they were rehearsing for what became the first album, worked on the guitar part, their 2 guitar parts for Lemon Tree, all night one night, in the little one-room place that I was sharing with Paul. And I've never liked that song since then. I mean, it kept me up all night as they tinkle, 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 tinkle. Drove me crazy. But they were really worked hard.
Another component of that great folk scare was the ABC TV Hootenanny. Do you recall that?
ABC TV Hootenanny, yeah. I remember the Hootenanny. Initially, I was excited. I thought, oh, great, there's going to be a TV show of folk music. It's going to help people become acquainted with folk music. It's got to help us all. And almost instantly, it became clear that they were invariably going for the lowest common denominator. I mean, they were encouraging audiences to clap on 1 and 3, and I find it unforgivable. But they always went for the blandest thing they could get. But most unforgivably, they blacklisted Pete Seeger. Pete Seeger had been blacklisted with the Weavers and who knows how many other artists during the McCarthy years. The real scare, the Red Scare. And he was still under that blacklist, although Fred Weintraub, the producer and the owner, by the way, of The Bitter End, and ABC flat out lied about it. They said that no, Pete had not been blacklisted. He was not being asked to perform because they just didn't think he was a good enough performer. This man who would have Carnegie Hall rocking on its foundation with excitement was not a good enough performer for the. So those of us, there were several of us who were kind of penciled in as possible guests. We weren't, in all honesty, we weren't being clamored for to be on, but might have been on. A lot of us got together and said, no, we ain't going on. even if we're asked, we're not going on. If Pete is so we had a meeting at Village Gate. This was a little better meeting than our union meetings. We were serious. John Phillips was there, I remember. Billy Fair. A lot of us were there, and we got a lot of support right away. Peter, Paul, and Mary came in and said they had turned down the show on artistic merit, but they would go on the show, on the same show that Pete was on. Joan Baez said the same thing. Other people went ahead and went on the show, and it's all right. I mean, people have to make up their own minds about these things. But I thought it was a despicable thing to blacklist this greatest figure in American folk music today, and it was their loss.
Dylan took off at this time meteorically. I mean, arrived on the scene in '61, recorded by the end of the year. Shelton gave him a big review. And again, no historical revisionism, if you can. How did people feel about that in the village, who had been the contemporaries of this other guy 8 months earlier?
I think Dylan's rise was looked upon kind of with awe. Another person who was a rise going up meteorically, by the way, was Bill Cosby, who was one of us at the Gaslight. I mean, that's where he started, was at the Gaslight. But that wasn't the music we were making. Dylan's rise was awesome. It kept hitting breaking through new barriers of rise. You know, it kept going higher than you thought. I mean, he was the biggest thing in the village, and then suddenly he was the biggest thing in Berkeley. You know, he got this kind of universal acceptance on our level, and then went through the roof until he was a giant star. And
this is great stuff, and we've got somebody yelling outside.
Yeah.
So.
Can we cut this one?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna do it
everybody's.
again.
Yeah.
We can do it again.
Yeah.
You're just in the doorway next door.
Oh.
All right, say goodbye.
No, he came back.
Take 9, Paxton, take 9.
He doesn't know what's going on. He's just talking to his friend.
Wait.
Okay, there they go.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done.
But they haven't totally left yet. They're still standing out front.
We can't shoot him.
Oh, there's a wonderful line in Dave. Frank Langella plays, you know, like the evil
Dave, whoa.
assistant
Careful with that.
to the president.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And at one point he's furious with Dave because he's the one who got him on, and he says, "I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him." And the other assistant, the good guy, says, "You can't kill him. He's the president of the United States." He says, "He's not the president of the United States. He's a common man. He's a common citizen. I can kill a common citizen." And he says it with utter conviction. Okay, have our common citizens left?
We're ready? You rolling?
Are we clear of them?
Okay, we're fine.
Okay, bus is turning.
9 up.
Going by.
The buses haven't bothered us. There's been a lot of them. Okay, take 9, roll 12.
If you can do it again.
Sure.
Yeah.
We all looked at Dylan's rise with awe. It was kind of like a phenomenon happening in the family. I mean, one of us who had, of course, had always been extremely highly respected in our group, but suddenly, I mean, he was through the roof. And first, I mean, he was like the most talked about person in the village, the most talked about artist, people arguing about his songs, good, bad, you know. And then, you know, like you realize that he was attracting that kind of excitement in Cambridge and Berkeley and various places like that. But it was still like in the family, the enlarged family. And then, bam! I mean, it was through the roof. I mean, I remember being at Newport in '63, which was like his kind of crowning in the folk music community. And I mean, it was genuinely exciting and awesome to see. I have a great memory of Bob. We had this little room upstairs over the Gaslight for at least part of the time while I was still playing there. It was kind of a dressing room, and although no one dressed, it was just a getaway room, and we had kind of a permanent penny ante poker game going on up there, and we rigged a speaker up so we could hear the progress of the show downstairs, so you'd know when it was time to put your chips in your pocket and go do your 3 songs and come back up and get back in the game. There was a typewriter up there, and one night I came up there, and Bob was just finishing typing this lengthy poem, and he said, "What do you think of this?" So I sat down and I read the poem, and it was wild. It was like biblical. It was like apocalypse. And I said, "This is great. What are you going to do with this?" And he says, "Well, I don't know. What do you think?" I said, "Well, you mean you're not going to set this to music? You ought to set it to music." He said, "You think I should set it to music?" Yeah, Bob, put it, otherwise it's just a poem, and it'll appear in something, and you get, make it a song. So we did, and it was Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. So I kind of liked what he did with his poem.
That type of rise, the fame and the money, had to have bred resentment, I would think, among other people who
Sure.
you already described as ambitious.
Sure.
Was that out on the street? Was that feeling?
Oh,
there?
absolutely. I mean, I think the resentment that you feel, the envy, the jealousy, it's there. I think to some degree or another you try to deny it. You think, or I would think. Let me own it. I would think, well, it's not worthy of me to feel this way, so I would kind of pretend that I didn't feel that way. But of course, someone who basically does what you do, except better, is suddenly, megastar. Not just a star. A lot of people are stars, but a voice. A voice. And you think, boy, I could use some of that. I'd like to have that as well, please. You can't help but wish that you had it. You can't help but resent it. But at the same time, you like the guy it's happening to. I always liked Paul Simon. I still do. Peter, Paul, and Mary were all friends of mine, and they were, they had 3 albums in the top 10 at the same time. They were rolling in success, and they too were voices. They too were standing up for the same things they'd stood up before they were popular. Dylan didn't change, in my view. Paul Simon never changed. So you say, go for it, man. I'm glad you're doing this. At the same time, I think there was a certain feeling of wistfulness that you maybe wouldn't have heard if you could have sold a few more records yourself.
There must have been at some point when success and money was breaking up that poker game as people were recording more and on the road more. Did the social scene and then the tight-knit musical scene that you entered in 1960 start to break apart as folk music became?
No, I think what broke the poker game apart was, first of all, some of us learned to play poker and the others didn't, and it got to be too much for some people. But no, what really broke the poker game up was we all began traveling. I mean, there was early on, we were all working in the village every night, every weekend. We were in the Gaslight. We were, so we were together in our work as well as our friendship. But as we began tasting a little success, we began traveling, and we got married, and we moved in with our wives, and so it was just kind of a natural breaking up. But it didn't mean that anyone didn't want to see each other anymore.
A lot of different strains of music fed into the folk scene, and you've got old-timey and Delta blues, which we've talked about, topical songs, new singer-songwriter type stuff, which you did to a good degree as well as topical material. And all of this seems to have fed, to some degree, into a big debate. Okay, into a big debate about what is and what isn't folk music. And
end of camera roll number 12, end of number 12, end of sound roll number 6. What's that I hear? Interview with Tom Paxton continuing.